Day 101, I'm back in this juicy world full of juicy melons with lots of juicy things to do. It feels like home, because it is. But like any home you've been away from for a while, it's going to take a couple of days to properly adjust. I mean, for one, I've kind of forgotten what needs doing. It didn't take long to be reminded that the flooring of the melon plaza, for want of a better word, still needed finishing. And now that I'm not in a rush to finish, I don't need to harvest the melons when only half of them have grown. If you watched the last 100 days, you'll know what I'm talking about. Instead, I bought a second axe with the intention of fully enchanting the thing. If I'd learned anything from the last 100 days, it was that one was not and would never be enough. Sadly, I can only afford an Unbreaking 3 and Silk Touch book. Christmas is closing in and the prices are starting to reflect. At some point, I want to grab some more dirt for expanding the melon farm. I figured it would be easier without all these trees in the way. Plus, it's always useful to have a lot of wood on standby. The last part of the day was spent sheep breeding. I told you in the last 100 days I had a plan for red wool, but I never got around to showing you for what. That's something I'm going to make amends for this 100 days. I'll be honest, I've been feeling kind of sheepish about the situation. Day 102, as a melon farmer, I awoke to a beautiful sight. My watermelons had grown. Did you know there are over 1,000 varieties of watermelon worldwide? No, don't worry, I didn't expect you to. There's only one variety that really matters, the square blocky Minecraft version that can't be tasted until ultra-realistic haptic nerve VR technology makes advances. I'm trading them to repair the axe I used to gather them. Sounds redundant when I phrase it like that. Now, I've been getting a lot of comments on my previous videos that I should combine book enchantments and put them onto my tools in bulk rather than putting them on individually because it will save me levels. Personally, I'm not that fussed, but I'll do it for you guys. Also, quick tangent, don't you think mending is a weird phenomena? I'm trying to imagine using tools in everyday life, and by killing things or shopping you could repair that tool simply by holding it in your hand. Man, every day would be a cross between Black Friday and the Purge. It would be absolute madness. You know what else is madness? The thoughts racing through this zombified piglin's head. I bet he has no fucking clue why there are tens of thousands of melons laid out like this. It was easier to kill him than explain. He wouldn't get it. Despite having killed him, I couldn't help but feel embarrassed he might have seen some of the unfinished area. It would be damaging to my reputation if it got out, so I put my stacks of melons to use filling it in. And now that is a completed melon floor. Reputation still intact. Yeah, nothing to see here. There's nothing to see here. As I was saying, reputation still intact. Day 104, I had the genius idea of putting Fortune 3 onto another axe, and then went with a newfound sense of excitement back into the Nether, to the fortress I'd seen in the last 100 days. I was there for Wither Skulls. However, when I killed a magma cube, I noticed it didn't drop a magma cream, and that was the moment the penny dropped and I realised I needed Looting 3 and not Fortune 3. That killed all momentum. I could of course stay and kill Wither skeletons in hopes of skulls, but with no Looting 3 enchantment, I'd be there for hours. So I farmed melons the next day. It's the best way to mentally recuperate from any blunder. Then it was back into the Nether to tidy up the portal area to my base. There's only one green block that would look good in this place. Here's the size of the portal area. I still need to heighten the ceiling or remove the blocks completely. I haven't decided. It depends on how much work I want this to turn into. I opted for simply heightening the ceiling, and there were a lot of lava spills. This annoyed me, legit. About a minute before this I was telling myself to keep an eye on my pick's durability, and then my mind went on to something else entirely. So back to the trade cave it was, to buy the enchanted books needed for a new pick. And then more trading needed to be done because now I needed levels, and trading was still the best option for XP gathering. Alright, I got the levels needed to enchant a second pick. This one was almost as good as my first. I say almost because it doesn't have Fortune 3 on it. But now I have the option to put Silk Touch onto it if I wanted. A bridge I'll cross in the future. For now, work in the Nether continued like nothing happened. That's the ceiling done. All that's left is to take out the netherrack floor. I never thought I'd come across ancient debris. I'm over y equals 80 and there's 2 of them. That's melon karma for you. This is the area with the netherrack taken out from the floor. The melons need putting in and it's going to be done. It's a simple design, and you know what I like about it the most? the melons. Plus, they're not flammable, so I don't have to worry about fire spreading, which is one of the worst things about the Nether. Anything that is remotely flammable in that place will catch fire at some point. A ghast is going to make sure of that. Back in the Nether, I'm widening my custom 1 block wide road to the fortress, mostly so I don't walk off the side or get knocked off the side. And ironically, while working on the road to prevent that, I fell through a hole to my death. The worrying part was landing next to lava. I really hope I didn't lose my gear. I quickly ran back to the spot I fell from. Looking down, I could see my XP but no items. That's not a good sign. I was hoping they were out of render distance, not that they'd been lost to the lava. The descent was sketchy. I had to be careful not to fall to a second death and to avoid piglins from seeing me without gold armor. Oh, I breathed a sigh of relief when I saw my stuff on the ground. Obviously, I checked my inventory and I think the only thing I lost was a regular bow. From what I could have lost, I will 100% take that. That could have been a lot worse. As I got close to the fortress, a blaze spotted me and rose to a height he could target me. I ran. I bet he bragged to his friends about that. Day 111, the road was finished. Actually, not quite. A ghast blew up some of it. As I was saying, the road was finished. Next, I needed dirt for expanding the melon farm a little more. This is where the melon farm is at the moment, and it's hard to see, but this is what I've got planned. Another 5 full lanes of melons. I could only get so far because I ran out of dirt. With the dirt I had, I got 2 of the 5 lanes completed. I'm going to have to chop down more trees in this area before I take all of the dirt from this area. It's just going to be easier. Although, I don't know why I don't just head over there. The land near to the pillager tower is prime real estate for dirt collecting. There's no trees in the way at all. But then I realised my stupidity. I'd collected thousands of blocks of dirt whilst clearing out this area the last 100 days. With enough dirt to fully expand the farm, progress went quickly. Until phantoms showed up, like last time, and it reminded me I no longer have a bow to deal with them. So I went and bought another. But when I went back to kill them, they'd gone. A smart decision. Completely out of the blue, for no reason, a witch bitch hit me with a potion effect. I didn't realise at first, but when I did, I cursed her inside. All I'm doing is minding my own business. And of course phantoms chased me down. You know what they remind me of? Those annoying Jobsworth people you get in the workplace who take pleasure in getting in your face to get across the point what a great worker they are. Not as easy to get rid of as phantoms though. Anyway, the expansion was finished and I went into the trade cave to do a bit of redecorating. You know me, pro Minecraft builder and all. Minecraft season 10, what? I accidentally hit an iron golem and he completely obliterated me. Little did he know I'm immortal, so I retaliated in kind. What's the plan, Stan? Well, the trade cave needs melons. It's quite obvious to take this place into a top tier category of its own. Melons need to cover every single surface. Although it was going to take time, villagers kept getting in the way. They have no understanding of personal space. If I bumped and nudged people out of the way IRL like they do, guarantee I'd get a slap. And no, that's not going to be a future video. Look at them, they're evolving and getting smarter. They're breeding on their own. I hadn't fed them anything, they're just taking it upon themselves to do it. I'm gonna have to be wary. It's like Bug's life. An ant by itself can't take on a grasshopper, but in larger numbers, they can do anything. Fortunately, I don't have to worry. If they can't operate a gate, they can't be that smart. Oh, and here's the finished room. I would hate to have a hangover in this place. But sober, it's a joy to be in this place. I traded to repair my axe to the halfway mark. Then, I gathered more melons, and traded again to repair the rest of the axe. I also bought some ender pearls from the clerics. I want to start prepping for the end, after I'd harvested the rest of the melons. I wasn't going to, but the way they were looking at me, you wouldn't believe it. Day 117, I sniped blazes with my bow for blaze rods. I stopped at 16. I felt like it was a good number to stop on, and stopping at 15 is an odd number, so that would have been a not so good number to stop on. The only reason I killed this magma cube was to avenge my previous self in the last 100 days when I was unjustly murdered. Yes, before anyone says anything, I know I need to fix this staircase, but that's a job for another time. Today is for obsidian. I made an ender chest, and now I could carry more melons. How wonderful. And because I hadn't put fortune onto my pick earlier, I could put silk touch onto it now, which is kind of necessary for picking up your ender chest. But I did think that maybe I should have a backup ender chest here in the base in case something happened to the one in my inventory. Then it was back into the nether for exploring the fortress. I found some diamonds in a chest. I wasn't fussed about them, I was here for nether wart, the only crop apart from melons I've been genuinely pleased to see. And I thought with my S tier luck I'd kill a couple of W skellies to get some W skelly heads. It didn't happen. Oh well, at least I could make fire res potions. renovations. There's no way I'm ever dying to lava again, famous last words of a hardcore series, am I right? You joined me mid-battle on day 119. I forgot to record most of the day. What have I been doing? I've been preparing the stage for a mob spawner. I know it didn't work well in my hardcore series, but I'm confident it will here. Before I build the spawner itself, I'm building a platform for it to sit on, and the views are incredible from up here. From a developer's POV, there's so much more land to be filled with melons. Anyway, work continued on the platform, and like always, phantoms ruined it. Day 120, the platform is finished. It's everything I could have asked for. But now I need to restock on melons before I can build the spawner itself. Are you fucking kidding me? I didn't want to sleep to get rid of phantoms because it would feel like I'm taking an L, but when the night is this close to finishing, it doesn't feel like such a loss to sleep. Plus, as I'm going to be working on the spawner at height, I no longer have to be concerned with being knocked off the side and killed. Not talking from experience. It would help if I remembered to bring 2 buckets of water with me. Okay, so there's been a bit of drama, or should I say suspected drama. Here's the situation. I see a llama here at the top. I see one at the bottom, but no wandering trader, or the potion effects to show his invisibility. My theory is that the top llama pushed him into the water, and then the water dragged him down to the bottom of the mob spawner and killed him. Obviously the second one wasn't on board, so he had to be pushed too. I need more inventory space. I used up all my melons. It's a promising sign when you haven't finished and you see that mobs are already appearing. What can I say, guys? I knew it was going to work. And here it is, the finished product. It's not as efficient as an Enderman farm, but it's gonna do. Don't tell me this isn't a gold medal attempt at a dive. I combined books for enchanted sword, killed mobs for XP, and then put those enchantments onto my sword. I wanted looting 3, but couldn't be bothered to hunt for a looting 3 librarian. Day 124 I was leveling up, so I could combine an unbreaking 3 and infinity book, and then put them onto a fresh bow. And you know what a fresh bow with infinity signifies? Time for the stronghold. I ran into another pillager tower on the way. It was more heavily guarded than the one I raided back on day 100, but it was still ridiculously easy to get in, and I got another goat's horn. The next day I left the tower. The local residents were angry, but also too slow to do anything. I've made it clear phantoms are the most annoying mob. Snow blocks like these are the most annoying blocks. I just want to be able to walk across normally. Is that too much to ask? I found a ruined portal on my travels. The loot wasn't worth taking, and the snow wasn't worth getting angry over, but I did. Eventually I narrowed the stronghold's location down to this spot. I mined down into a large dripstone cave, which after searching there was no stronghold to be seen, so I continued to mine down into the bowels of the earth. And lo and behold, a wild stronghold appears. Skoke had taken over many a room, and I'll be honest, the prospect of a potential warden appearance didn't fill me with good feelings. But taking bookshelves in the library did. They're free books, and I plan to do more enchanting this set of 100 days, so they're going to be massively helpful. Plus, I'm saving many cows' lives. Think of that. I don't know if I was bordering on the edge of an ancient city, because there was a lot of skoke, and I found a chest with diamonds inside. There was also a skoke shrieker I carefully mined. Day 127, I found the portal room. I fill the lava with melons, make a nether portal, and head back into the nether, a basalt delta biome. Before I head into the end, I want to get a road set up that runs from the stronghold portal back to my base portal. Unfortunately, I got hit off a ledge and fell into lava. This time I lose all my stuff. That includes all of the bookshelves, my tools, and any melons I had on me. Psychologically, it hurt a lot. What was I saying about never dying to lava again? But I have an unlimited amount of lives, so in the long run, it's not going to matter. I went back into the nether to continue where I left off, and I got knocked off my road again by a blaze and ended up on half a heart. Very sad. I went to throw some retaliation punches, and after downing a fire res potion, something I should have done at an earlier stage, I KO'd them and broke the spawner so they wouldn't be an issue in the future. I managed to join both ends of the road, and now I had a single unbroken run from my base to the stronghold. But now the end is going to have to wait while I catch up on the lost time my death has set me back by. I started by getting additional farmers so I could sell more melons at once. Then I bought more enchanted books and combined them into mega enchanted books. Having an iron farm made it easy to replace the armour I'd lost. And then I spent the night killing mobs for XP and combining enchantments. I made another sword with sweeping edge 3, unbreaking 3 and mending. Not great, not terrible. I stayed at the mob spawner until I was level 21. That was enough levels to fully enchant a diamond pick. Then I went back to the trade cave to buy the books needed for a fully enchanted shovel. And back up to the mob spawner to gain the levels to put the enchants onto the shovel. I also got a power 3 bow from the spawner. Not as good as power 5, but better than nothing seeing as I don't have a librarian with power enchants. When I said before that collecting all of those bookshelves would save many cows' lives, I have a feeling I'm going to have to rescind that statement. This scene right here is me being pulled around by the current of the cows. My keyboard, WASD keys, stopped working as direction keys. Eventually I figured out I'd accidentally done a sneaky FN switcheroo trick, and then I was back to walking normally again. Day 131, I harvested melons all day. Day 132, I needed more jobless villagers. I currently have none, I need more librarians. For some reason I thought I needed Eyes of Ender, but I don't because I've already activated the end portal. However, I'm going to build an enderman farm at some point, and I need ender pearls to get the endermite, so I guess it wasn't a complete loss. I spent the rest of the day harvesting dark oak trees while I waited for the villager children to grow up. By the next day, none of the children had grown into adults, so I continued doing other things to keep busy while I waited. Kind of boring tasks, like emptying out the auto melon farm and converting the melon slices into melon blocks, and removing poppies from the iron farm and putting them into the composting system. But on day 134 the green light was given, and the hunt for enchantments began. It went very well. I got Infinity, Sharpness 5 and Flame. Sharpness 5 went onto my sword, and Infinity and Flame onto my bow. And finally, it was time to head back to where I'd left things off at the stronghold, ready to fight the ED, standing for Ender Dragon, not the other thing. I'm not trying to flex because by this point we all know the ED fight is pretty easy, but it was even easier than I thought it would be. I think mostly because I wasn't in hardcore, and that took a lot of the pressure off. And victory enabled me to go from a little seedling on level 3 to a big fat ripe melon on level 68. I built a little platform around the end gate in case I misjudged the ender pearl throw. Let's be honest, the only reason I'm here is to search for an end city, and I could see none. There was no way to tell, but I felt this direction looked the most promising, and before I crossed any open air, with the void under me, I shoved my valuables into my ender chest, but was forced to keep my pick out so I could pick up my ender chest. The reason I'm keeping the stuff in the ender chest is, in case if I do fall, at least most of my stuff has been saved. Good news, I found an end city. Bad news, it was tiny and had no boat. But there were still shulker shells to grab, and even got some diamonds. I don't care about the diamonds, I'm just pointing it out. There were some beetroot seeds, but who wants them? Great news. Magnificent, in fact. I found an absolute Big Mac of a city, boat included, so you know I'm going to be able to tame those skies. I couldn't believe it. The game had completely cheated me out of my prize. Half the boat was missing, and it had to be the half with the elytra. What is this? So the search began again. I did get lucky with another end city, and this one had a boat as well. Even luckier, there's an end gate right next to it. Massive bonus, because I didn't bring any rockets with me, and I can't remember where that first end gate was. The boat in this city was fully kitted out with an elytra, and that was that. I could do what mortal men had always dreamed of doing, flying to my heart's content. I flew in the wrong direction. There we go, that's better. It's not as valuable as a single melon, but I still took the dragon's egg. I forgot to record day 139, but I really didn't do much, just kind of sorting out my storage. And it's what I'm doing here, sorting out my new shulkers that are to stay in my ender chest. Before I forgot, I put both mending and unbreaking 3 onto my elytra. If I'm careful, it should never break. Rarely do I buy from a wandering trader in vanilla Minecraft, but today I did. Nautilus shells, cacti, and slime. Day 141, it was time I set up a proper place of residence, a house I could be proud of. I promised you'd see what the red wall was for, and now you're going to be able to see. One side of the house is officially done. Can you tell what it is? Of course you can. I copied the design from a pixel art image on Google. What, you think I'd be able to design a melon slice without a reference? You don't? Oh. Okay, here's another update for the house. I'd made the thing 15 blocks wide, so it's spacious enough to live in, but nothing too big that I come across as a douche. Also, it's thundering again. I really do need to try doing the all advancement speedrun. I wish you could sleep away bad weather in real life. I should have sheared the sheep more regularly. I needed more for the other side of the house, so I hope it's enough. I did have enough, and I'm happy with how it looks. 100% you can tell it's a melon slice, and it's a much better addition than the atrocity I'd built in the first 100 days. Not that it was me who actually made that, I wouldn't have done that, someone did. Day 144, it was time to start kitting the house out, and the only thing I had planned for the interior was a storage system. I'm a simple guy and I like simple things, and a manual design that isn't anything crazy is more than good enough for me. And it took a lot longer than I thought it would. I built up more items and blocks than I thought, so it took me all the way until day 147 to actually finish the job. But when I did, it was a relief and a weight off my shoulders. I'd assigned 3 double chests per category. That didn't work out for the stone and similar category, but that was what the intention was. With all of my stuff in one place, I thought it apt to have an auto smelting setup inside the house too, so I could conveniently take out what items I wanted for smelting, walk a few steps, and have them cook inside the comfort of my own house. And that's what I did the next day, filled the auto smelters to the brim to passively cook while I'm in the base area working on other things. I want to sort out a better fuel source than coal or charcoal though, something renewable that doesn't require me to chop down dozens of trees and then further smelt them down into fuel for smelting other items. Lava came to mind, and so I was building a staircase down to a lava lake. To do that, I had to drop into the lake itself and tower up from the bottom and work my way up to join the last part of the staircase with the other part I'd built. Day 149, I had finished the staircase. I'd winded it so it'd be less likely to fall into lava. Now I can collect all the lava I want, and with my iron farm I can craft all the buckets I want. Again, I'm collecting melons. Seems to be a common theme. I always need more. And as long as I farm melons, I'm going to need to continually repair my axe. Days 151 to 153 were spent back in the Nether. I wanted to widen the stronghold road. At the moment, it's like the bridge of Khazad-dûm, and we all know how that went. Here's the route from the stronghold portal to the base portal. It's fairly long, but it's direct and safe. I've reached the halfway mark of this video, and I realise my projects are slowly creeping up in scale, and I'm needing more and more melons at a time. And so, what can I do about it? I'll tell you what I can do. I can expand the melon farm. There's a number of different ways I can go about this. I could extend it lengthways or widthways, but the problem with both is that the further away my melon farm extends out to the outer edges of render distance and beyond, melons aren't going to grow when I'm working in the base. However, if I were to add another layer on to the top of the farm, then that would be a different issue. That would solve it. I'd double returns on all my melons as well, a 100% profit margin. Yeah, it's going to take some time to make, but if I can do this, then we're going to be swimming in the good stuff. Before I start work, I'm going to sleep the rest of the day so I get some rest from phantoms. I swear I'm always complaining about these guys. For all of day 155, I worked on adding a second layer of dirt to the farm. I quickly realised it was going to be a multi-day project. So it's of no surprise it spilled over into the day of 156 too. The only obstacle I really came across was this section of terrain. It's in the way of my expansion plan, so I'm going to remove it. On the first layer of the farm, I shaped this corner of the farm around the terrain, when really, a true melon farmer would shape the terrain around his farm. I might come back and remove some more, but for now I've removed only the blocks I needed that were getting in the way of the farm expansion. I'm grateful to all the dirt blocks I'd collected when flattening the base area in the last 100 days because I was going through a lot of dirt. I didn't realise how much I was going to need. because for the next 2 days, that's all I did. Place dirt blocks. That's it. By day 160, all the dirt blocks had been placed. I'd like to say that was the bulk of the work done, but because the farm was so large, the other tasks like water trenches being put in, lighting up the farm, hoeing the dirt, planting the seeds, it's going to be a large time commitment. I'm using dark oak for the base of the trenches. I didn't want to use dirt because I didn't. Melons were considered, but then I thought when I'm racing through the ground layer harvesting melons, if I accidentally take out the melon trenches above, water's going to spill down from the layer above and I'd be mightily upset. Now that I'd added a second layer of dirt, mobs were beginning to spawn on parts of it, which would stall progress during the night, so I had to run around placing torches. But the next day I could get back to work putting in the dark oak planks, and it was an all-day task. It had taken a lot longer than I thought simply to add the planks in. I haven't even got around to filling in the water yet. Before I started that, I took a quick break to check on the auto smelter. The smelted items had built up. I'd smelted a lot of netherrack, not because I need nether bricks, but because I'm trying to conserve space in my storage system. The auto melon farm was also full, so they needed emptying out and converting to melons, and then I could get on with putting in the water in the trenches. A little useless behind the scenes information for day 163, my hands were aching by this point. The repetitive mouse clicks and keyboard movements I'd been doing since I began expanding this farm were doing a number on me. But comes with the territory of being a melon farmer. All the greats are known to have blisters on their fingers. Day 164, all the trenches had been filled with water. I know a number of you have said I should have spaced the trenches apart by 8 blocks rather than 4 blocks as it's more efficient, seeing as water will soak up to 8 blocks away, but I like the torch placement of the closer trenches. It makes the farm brighter, and that makes me happier. Talking of which, it was time to get the farm lit up. Look, I don't know what to say. I forgot to record day 165, but it was only me placing torches around the farm, so it's nothing mind-blowing. But I can show you the farm lit up in all its glory. I mean, it would look better at night, so what you're seeing now is obviously daytime, but just imagine what it would look like at night. It would look magnificent. It does look magnificent. Also, I bought a few books for an enchanted hoe. I bought the books and then I combined them. I'm talking Silk Touch, Unbreaking 3, Efficiency 5, and Mending, because let's be honest, a single diamond hoe is not going to be enough to hoe the ground of the farm. I'm going to need something special, but I'm going to need 29 levels to put those enchantments onto my hoe, and I'm at level 21, hence why I'm up at a mob spawner. The great thing about the auto farm collecting slices rather than hoe melons is that converting them into seeds is much easier. With OP hoe in hand, the final phase of the farm began. I got it all hoed by the next day, and then I went to make money from the farmers. One axe, as OP as mine is, will not be able to get through the farm in one go anymore once the expansion is up and running, so I'm going to need the money for buying more enchantments to put onto a second axe. That can obviously be done after I've planted the seeds, so that the melons are growing while I'm getting to work on the axe. And I needed a lot of seeds. It took the entirety of day 168 and part of day 169 to get them all planted, but that was it. The farm expansion was complete, double the size of what it was before, and there was no way I was going to bother bone mealing all of the melons. 1, because I didn't have enough bone meal, and 2, it would take a couple of days to do, and by then they mostly have grown. I sowed more melons than I had on standby. With the enchanting I'd like to do, having a stockpile of money is always going to be handy when it comes to trading with librarians. And then to celebrate the new and improved melon farm, I harvested the melons that had grown. That only meant the bottom layer, as the melons were only ready for harvesting there. I'm really curious how many melons I'm going to get from both layers together when I do an entire farm harvest. It's got to be at least 2 double chests worth, right? You'd imagine. Again, I have melons on hand. I might as well sell them for money. Now, as far as I'm concerned, the melon farm is finished. However, this corner of the melon farm is right up against the surrounding terrain. And you know what? I want to give the farm a few blocks space to breathe, especially because I'm eventually going to put some stained glass walls around the farm, and this is in the way. There was quite a bit to remove, but after having removed all of those blocks for the base area in the last 100 days, this was child's play. The thought of having a beacon to assist didn't even cross my mind. I should find something to do with these stone blocks though. I'm having to add more and more chests for somewhere to put them. Eventually I'm going to run out of room. The auto smelters had finished smelting, so I topped them up with a fresh batch of netherrack, and then it was back to work on the terrain. which carried through to the next day. But it did get finished that same day, and as you can see, it's much more spacious. There is now the room to put a wall around the outside, plus it's opened up enough space that I could now extend the corner of the bottom part of the farm out so I can get more melons growing. I don't do any of those things. I only have 7 books, and sometimes that means being the person that gets things done that aren't nice to do. If I still had those bookshelves, none of this would be happening. Not that it offered any of them much comfort as I slid my sword into their hearts to sever the life from their bodies, but maybe if I was to tell them I had used their bodies to trade for enchanted books, no, maybe not. I didn't have the levels required to put all those enchantments onto my axe, so I stayed at the mob spawner until I got what I needed, and I was able to forge an OP backup axe for harvesting melons. While I was there, I thought I might as well stay to repair my tools, though I only got enough levels to repair my original axe and hoe. So I stayed for a bit the next day to repair my pick, but ended up staying even longer to combine some of the enchanted bows with low level enchants dropped by skeletons. Back in the melon house, there was an unannounced guest. He was to become part of the interior decoration. I named him Mason Melon. It's not a reference, I simply couldn't think of another name beginning with M, and then he got angry. Probably because he's holding a grass block instead of a melon, and I completely understand the disappointment. Day 175, I was searching for 2 specific enchantments, Looting 3 and Protection 4, so I bought Respiration 3 and Feather Falling 4 books, and then I had no more spare villagers, so I'm gonna have to wait for children to grow up, again. I shouldn't wish a child's life away, but there are laws surrounding child employment, so until they grow up, I have no use for them. Yeah, listen, I know there are gonna be people who tell me I need to cure zombified villagers for cheap trades, but I really can't be asked to put in the effort to do that, and really I don't care. After I buy the enchantments I need, I only need to rely on villagers here and there, and really, that's not worth making an OP trade haul. Sorry to all you people who love to see Minecrafters who are willing to go the extra mile to do things the professional way. That's not the sort of person you're watching here. If you're wondering what I'm doing here, I'm doing some exploring of the world. I found a desert. I'll come back to it a bit later. For now, it was back to the trade cave to hunt for useful librarians, except none of the children had grown up. So while I wait, I'm going to farm melons. I have 4 double chests to put them into. Like I said before, I'm curious how much a single harvest of the entire farm is going to get me. I'm surprised I remembered to switch out axes before my first one broke. Usually I forget that sort of thing. After farming both layers of the farm, I got close to 3 double chests full of melons. That's not a bad haul, it should last me for a while. The rest of the night was spent at the mob spawner repairing the axes. Day 178, I could now hunt for librarians. The problem is that I've been too lenient and given the villagers too much freedom by not boxing them in next to their job site blocks and allowing them to run around as they please, and they just sort of get in the way. I mean, they really get in the way. I couldn't find Looting 3 or Protection 4, but I did get Power 5, and that was all I could find for the day, so I bought the books needed for another fully enchanted bow. Combined them at an anvil, so now I have a Power 5 Unbreaking 3 Infinity Flame book waiting in the wings to be put into a fresh bow when mine eventually breaks further down the line. Also, Mason Melon had calmed down. Eventually I'd like to expand my melon empire in this area, and these trees are in the way, so they're going to have to go at some point. I'm just making a small start on them now. I told myself I wasn't going to get anything other than Looting 3 and Protection 4 today, but then Smite 5 and Fire Aspect came up, and I bought them. It's not only the villagers that get in the way, these guys are constantly walking around like they own the place. They don't. I put Smite 5 onto one of my axes, and Fire Aspect 2 onto my sword. Of course, the day I forgot to start recording is the day I found Protection 4 and Looting 3. Currently I'm at the mob spawner putting enchants onto my armour. But just in case you don't believe me, here's the librarian selling Protection 4, and here's the one selling Looting 3. It took most of the day to find them, and I completely freaked out. I think if I remember rightly, my reaction went, nice. I spent all of the next day at the mob spawner combining the enchanted books with my armour to get fully enchanted armour. It would have been quicker to level up via villagers, but I wanted to save my money for the higher level enchants. And that would be these enchants. To put Smite 5 onto my second axe, it's costing 36 levels, 15 more than it did for my first axe, and 37 levels to put Looting 3 onto my sword. Going to stay at the mob spawner some more, and then maybe tomorrow use villagers to get the last few levels to level 36 and 37, respectively. So after spending some time at the mob spawner, I traded with villagers to get up to level 37. I wanted to get Looting 3 onto my sword first, as I already had an axe with Smite on it, and out of the two, I really fucking wanted Looting 3 on my sword. And that was all she wrote. I now had the most powerful sword in the game. Unbreaking 3, Mending Flame, Sharpness 5, Looting 3, Sweeping Edge 3. I could feel this distortion of space-time around its edges. I've been having a lot of build-up of gold and iron armour I have no use for in the spawner, so I built an auto furnace to smelt it down into nuggets. diamonds. I'd also gotten a fair few enchanted bows, and while I've got a bow and a backup fully enchanted book for a second bow, I took the time to combine a lot of the lower level enchants into better bows, and one day in the future I'll probably end up using one of these. As for the rest of the unwanted items, I'm talking the regular bows, the leather armour, the random bits of food and numerous stacks of arrows. I threw them off the side of the platform, out of sight, out of mind. The next day I quickly traded my way up to level 36, and that enabled me to put Smite 5 onto my second axe, and with a fully enchanted Looting 3 sword, I could get on with what I planned to do way back on day 104, Hunt for Wither Skulls. My Looting 3 luck didn't kick in until the next day, but when it did, it kicked in hard, and I was able to get all 3 of the skulls I needed. I've decided that ghasts are the nether version of phantoms. Vexing. I'm getting obsidian for trapping the wither. What's that? I should fight fair? Why would I do that? Day 185. In the end, I made a small killing chamber under the end portal home. I summoned the wither, and that's as climactic as it got. It was trapped, so it couldn't do anything. I felt like a small spider that trapped a much bigger fly in its web. But rejoice, I got a nether star, and made a beacon block back at the base. Any guesses for what I'm going to do next? I'll give you a hint. I've made a beacon block, and now I'm grabbing iron blocks from the iron farm. Wrong, I flew to the desert. I don't actually need to make a functioning beacon at the moment, so I'm going to leave it until I do. Believe it or not, I didn't have the coordinates for my base, so I made an arrow out of iron blocks pointing in the direction I would need to fly to get back to the base. And then I spent the night killing mobs. The next day I was collecting cacti. I came to the desert not for sand, but to build a cactus farm, both for bone meal and green dye. Green dye especially, as I have plans to use a lot of green stained glass. Not during these 100 days, but at some point, and I know what I'm going to use them for. I only built for so long. It had gone dark and mobs were spawning, so I ran around light in the area so I wouldn't have to fight off hordes of angry local residents protesting against the new development on their land. Okay, it's only one layer at the moment, but this is the farm I'm going to make. Just imagine a tower of this with multiple layers, and then several of these towers next to each other. See, when I put it like that, it's a bit more impressive. Don't get me wrong, it's not going to be like those game-breaking farms you see in private servers that make their way onto YouTube highlighting how bad of a Minecrafter you really are, but for little old me, it's going to be more than enough. Also, there was a fucking pillager in my farm. I got the bad omen effect for his death, I didn't care. I added another 4 layers, so now I had 5 layers total of the farm. Talking of private servers, I would love to be a part of a server with a handful of committed people, but at the moment I don't have the time. Maybe one day. I had come away from the desert to restock on melons, but before I could head into the base I needed to get rid of the bad omen effect, and before I could restock on melons I went to the mob spawner to repair my elytra. There was a wandering trader up there. He had rubbish trades obviously, so I pushed him and his llamas one by one off the side. They lived, they fell into water, just most of their bones broken, internal organs crushed. I picked up the melons, flew back to the desert, and continued work on the cactus farm. For the next 3 days I didn't do anything else but expand the cactus farm upwards, adding more and more layers. The good thing was that I'd built up enough layers of the farm that when I ran low on cacti, the farm had produced enough cacti for another couple of layers, and by the time I'd built those additional couple of layers, the farm would have produced enough cacti for another couple of layers, except it was slowly compounding, so I was getting maybe enough for another 2.5 layers, and then 3.5 layers, and then 5 layers, etc. I stopped when it felt right, and that happened to be 19 layers of pure unadulterated cacti. And now that we've got this set, the cacti is starting to come in quickly. Like I said before, this isn't the cactus farm finished, no. This is just one of 12 towers I plan to build for cacti. It might be a little over the top for just myself, but I want to try and minimise AFK in as much as possible during this series. So I figure the larger the farm, the less time I have to wait for cacti, or what I'm after, bone meal and green dye. It's going to take a lot of work, and currently I don't have the melons for it, but this is the next big project I'm going to be working on. I'm going to be doing what I did back at the base, making a large area safe from mobs that is completely flat and full of melons. There's no plan in mind for how large I want the area to be, I'm just placing melons until it feels right. And feeling right meant coming out 80 blocks from the cacti farm in all 4 directions. Now that I had in place how far each edge of the area was going to come out, I could outline the entire perimeter of the area, and because I'd lit up a good portion of the space earlier, there was only a few mobs I actually had to deal with. Day 194. This is the finished perimeter. It's hard to tell, but I have a feeling it might be larger than the base area, which means it's going to take more melons to fill, and that equates to a lot. There's no time like the present. It wasn't just a case of filling in the area wherever. I wanted to get all of the torches in place first, so then I wouldn't have to worry about placing them as I go. That meant putting in strips of lines that run across the entire area, and then having other strips of lines running perpendicular to them, and where each line intersects, I'll put up a torch. Thunder started about 3 minutes into day 195, and there's no way I'm sleeping it away. That's like 17 minutes down the drain. Here's where I've got to before I ran out of melons. That's maybe a quarter of the way through this stage of the project. I wish I'd stayed in the end some more and collected more shulkers. It's a bit of a pain flying back and forth to pick up more melons. If I was heading back, however, it made sense to bring as much of the sand I'd inadvertently collected to shove into the smelters. Turns out I had no spare melons lying around, so being the melon farmer I am, I got to work. And I know now that this will net me close to 3 double chests worth of melons. After the harvest had been reaped, I went up to the spawner again to repair both axes that were close to breaking. Back to the desert to continue placing melons in strips. To my surprise, I found a skeleton spawner fairly close to the surface. It's going to be covered under thousands of blocks of melons, but I'll make a note that it's down here and come back to it at some point. As far as the loot chests were concerned, the only thing worth my time were the melon seeds. Because the area I'm filling in is larger than the area I've lit up, it's not surprising that at some point I'd have to deal with mobs. A few of the lines I was running across the area needed to head straight through some of the terrain, so that meant digging out a lot of sand blocks. Day 200, and I placed melons for only part of the day. Again, like the last 100 days, the project I was taking on wasn't going to get done by the time the video was at an end, so there was no point in trying. Might as well relax for the last one, right? Sometimes it's nice not to have to do anything, and I feel like I can only really do that on the final day of filming. Here's how much I've done. I've started to put in the strips of melons running in the opposite direction from the first ones, so now a grid pattern is starting to take shape. When all of the strips are in, at every point the strips intersect, like I said before, I'll be putting a torch to keep it well lit, and then I can start to fill in the area with melons. And then, after that's done, I can work on making the other towers of the cactus farm. Talking of which, here's the cacti that had built up at the cactus farm while I was in the area. Not too shabby. Obviously, I couldn't end the episode without these fuckers paying me a visit. I don't know if I could ever say they're endearing, but it wouldn't be the same without them. But that's it. For another 100 days. We've officially done 200 days in this melon world. And for anyone who's interested, I'm already working on Melon's 300 days. Oh, for fuck's sake, I hate these guys so much. Also, I just want to say a massive thanks to you people who have supported me on Patreon. It's huge. For anyone who wants to know, I post content intended for YouTube on Patreon a week early. So if you are interested, I'll put the link in the description, but no pressure. Anyway, thanks for watching.